There is a push to mute.
Oh, fancy.
I don't know that I trust it, but they're relatively new mics, so.
We can hear you.
All right, we're public, you're all set, and the video issue there is addressed.
There we go. All right. Video is now working, folks. Okay. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Can I have a moment of silence, please? And all stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's what teaching online is like. When you hear it like that.
Roll call. Mrs. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Bromhall?
Here.
Mr. Gaffney? Mrs. Iacone?
Here.
Mr. Kenny?
Here.
Mr. McGuckin?
Here.
Ms. Quinn?
Here.
Ms. Trompe?
Here.
Ms. Fitzwater here. Statement is hereby made that adequate notice of this meeting was given by submission of said notice to the Burlington County Times, the Courier Post, the Cinnaminson Township Clerk, and the district website on January 14th, 2021 and January 21st, 2022. We're going to move to section 4, routine business. We have A, the board secretary's report for November 2021 and December 2021. B, the treasurer's report for November 21 and December 2021. The budget receipts transfers for November 2021 and December 2021. No monthly transfer reports. The high school activities reports for December of 21. The food service management cost performance for December of 21. The certified bill list for December 9th, 21 through December 31st, 21, and January 1st, 22 through January 12th, 22. Approval of minutes from the reorg minutes of January 4th, 2022, the regular minutes of December 14th, 2021, the executive session on December 14th, 2021, and the executive session on January 4th, 2021. Mrs. Turner, can I have a motion to approve section A, routine business items A through H?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we're going to take a voice vote tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Moving on to routine matters, section 5. We have the enrollment report for as of January 14th, 2022. The health report for December 2021. The fire alarm report for December 2021. The crisis drill report for December 2021. The HIB report, and the superintendent's monthly report. Mr. Capello.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. Thank you, members of the board. Thank you, members of the public, for attending as usual. It's been a little over a month since I've last delivered a superintendent's report. It has been quite a busy month. First off, I think as loud as I can give a shout out to Mr. Steve Creel and the entire technology department. They were able to distribute 2,340 Chromebooks in the matter of about 72 hours. That was only possible because of months of planning and a really streamlined process, great distribution, a lot of cooperation from our teachers and administration, and I really appreciate that effort in making technology available to all of our students right after the new year. Speaking of technology, we'll go around the horn in the district a little bit. I'd like to compliment Mrs. Moeller and Mrs. Oliver from the New Albany School, who've recently been doing lessons on positive and negative ways to utilize technology, very timely with that distribution. and the lasting impact that technology can have on the lives of our students. And it's important to get that message out at an early age. And also as a part of these joint collaborative lessons, they've been working on teaching students proper netiquette and how to behave properly online. I think a really important skill for everyone to learn. January is National Braille Literacy Month, and thank you to the members of our child study team and New Albany School for creating the reading by touch examples that are displayed out in the hallways of New Albany. Over at the Rush School, I want to recognize the December Students of the Month. In 3rd grade, Hunter Kowaleski, nominated by Mrs. Ogazali. In 4th grade, Jack Byrne. 5th grade, Brianna Gokowski, and the specialist, Grace Prater. Congratulations to seniors Juliana DeCesar, junior Rachel Matson, and freshman Nick DeCesar, who were selected to the Olympic Conference Honors Band. And I always apologize to the student liaisons when I steal your thunder. If that is on there, I do apologize. But special congratulations to these 3 musicians. Also over at the high school, I want to give a shout out to our supervisor of world languages, Ms. Suzanne Kerr, who last week helped with the process of having 50 students participate in the Seal of Biliteracy testing. And we hope that they all did well and look forward to recognizing their success at our June board meeting. And finally, this one is hot off the press. Congratulations to Melissa DiClemente, Mrs. Melcher, and Ms. Nelson, and all of the staff and students from right here at Cinnaminson Middle School who helped the school to attain the distinction of a New Jersey School of Character. Once again, this is a special distinction that requires a lot of planning, preparation, and most importantly, adhering to the tenets of the character.org School of Character requirements. We wish them the very best as they continue their process to hopefully, fingers crossed, be considered for a National School of Character. Congratulations to Mrs. DiClemente and all of the folks who were involved in that. And I should note that Cinnaminson Middle School this time was the only traditional public school recognized in all of Burlington County. So it is quite a distinction for those who might not be aware. And finally, I'd like to give one last thank you to all of our bus drivers, our bus aides, our cafeteria workers, our cafeteria aides, our teachers, our classroom assistants, our principals, members of the child study team. It has been very difficult and very trying to be an educator over the course of the last month. We've experienced some staff shortages, some challenges with students coming and going, but the overall attitude of all of our staff members has constantly been whatever we can do for our students. And to all of those folks, I truly appreciate all of your efforts in helping to keep our schools open throughout some of the worst in the last few weeks. And it's been sometimes day-to-day trials, but I know you're always here on behalf of our students, and it is truly appreciated. And thank you to all the members of the public for all of your patience and support throughout this process. Mrs. Fitzwater, that is the superintendent's reports.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. McGuckin, can I have a motion to approve Section 5 routine matters, items A through F?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Turner. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed. We're moving on to Section 6, the student representatives report. We will start with the high school representative, Allie Nader.
The December Students of the Month are as follows. Freshman, George Driscoll. Sophomore, Sean Gilmore. Junior, Olivia Parisi. And senior, Grayson Cooney. The boys' basketball captains are Zion Ingram Moore and Adam Horner. They have a record of 2-6, and senior night is February 15th. Girls' basketball captains are Kelly Blystein, Katie Ambos, and Brooke Skenderovich. Their current record is 5-2, and senior night is February 24th. The wrestling captains are Sean Tippin, Sam Koch, Pat Geegan, and Isaiah Ruiz. Their record is 7-1, and senior night is February 2nd. The winter track captains are Colin Kind and Taylor Marescu. They are currently undefeated. The swimming captains are Croy Horsley and Juliana Wall. Their senior night was Tuesday, January 4th, and they beat Pemberton 132-38. The bowling boys seniors are Sam Becker, Dante Alford, Ryland Ross, Jack McLean, and Nate White. Girls seniors are Grace Chitola and Francesca Martelli. The boys' record is 9-4-2, and the girls are 8-5-1. Senior night will be Friday, January 28th. Cinnaminson DECA has been active this year, recruiting returning members and new business education students. Our enrollment for 2021/2022 is 35 student members. CHS has 11 Cinnaminson DECA members who have successfully competed in 10 events in 2022 New Jersey DECA Southwest District Conference. These members are now finalists for the 2022 New Jersey DECA State Career Development Conference in Atlantic City. The CHS Student Store continues to maintain COVID-19 precautions and has been open since mid-October to provide Cinnaminson-themed merchandise and snacks for those participating in afternoon sports and club activities. The National Honor Society students recently finished adopting 2 families for the Adopt a Family drive during the holiday season. Many of our students volunteered to assist Mrs. Turner with the Cinnaminson tree lighting by helping small children do crafts. In addition, our officers have chosen to work with a nonprofit organization called Love Michael, which trains, educates, and supports adults with autism. Students are raising money through social media and gain volunteer hours in the process. Lastly, we are starting to prepare for our annual blood drive, which will be held on 2/4/22. The human behavior and AP psychology classes collected over 100 health and beauty aids as well as hard candy for local behavioral health and patient programs. Items were collected in order to bring comfort during treatment. Thank you to everyone in our school and community for their generosity. The CHS Music Department was thrilled to be able to perform again at the end of December for our winter concert. Congratulations to all the students involved. The All South Jersey Choir will have their performances on January 29th at 8 p.m. and January 30th at 4 p.m. The concerts will be held at the Washington Township Performing Arts Center. The following students won for their state deck designs that were voted on by CHS faculty and staff based on the most creative designs that show unity in color, pattern, and theme. Each of these decks was designed and illustrated by the students using Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Congratulations to the following students: Emma Patel, Alexander LePage, Justin Tranker, Josh Lubin, Emmanuel Loretta, and Nicole Corriera.
Good evening to all of you. I hope everyone had a relaxing, healthy winter break. Our middle school students for December were Julian Brody for 6th, Mia Passetti for 7th, and Crow Holt for 8th. The character trait for the month of January is friendship. Being a good friend means you listen to how others feel, you help others, you talk to others respectfully. Winter sports are underway at CMS. The boys A basketball team is 3-4, and the boys B basketball team is 0-7. The girls A basketball team has a record of 4-1, and the girls B basketball team has a record of 5-2. The CMS wrestling team has gone 1-5 so far this season. As reported at last meeting, the Environmental Awareness Club held a donation drive during this month of December. A huge thank you to our entire Cinnaminson district faculty and students and the Cinnaminson community. They took 2 loads of donations to the Burlington County Animal Shelter and the Animal Orphanage in Voorhees, and will take a small load to the Cedar Run Wildlife Refuge as well. Along with donations, the club raised $315 to distribute all 3 places. Thank you for the support from our superintendent, Mr. Capello, our Cinnaminson community, and the faculty and students throughout our district. The CMS Music Department hosted its winter concerts under the direction of Mr. Reilly, Dr. Salvio, Miss Sigmund, and Mr. Peacock throughout the month of December. The events were live streamed and available on YouTube. Last week, the Shop Club welcomed our new students by presenting them with CMS Pirate Pride shirts and some information about Cinnaminson, such as the best places to eat and hang out. The drama students and crew are practicing each week for CMS musical Moana. We look forward to seeing their production. That's all for CMS.
Thank you. Great
Thank you,
update.
Olivia. Any comments or questions from any of the board members? Okay, we're going to move on to section 7, a presentation by Dr. Goldburn. I don't know if you're speaking yet, but we can't hear you if you are.
I am not speaking.
Thank
Nope,
you.
he's just provisioning, building up anticipation.
Can the board members see the presentation?
Yes.
Super.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So this fall, students across the state of New Jersey took what was called the Start Strong Assessment. The reason they did that was because the NJSLA test from last spring was canceled. And annual testing is a federal requirement for students in grades 3 through 8, and once in high school for math and English, and for students in grades 5, 8, and 11 in science. The United States Department of Education said to any states last spring that were toying with the idea of canceling, that if you were going to cancel the spring assessment, you were going to have to do something either over the summer or in the fall to capture student achievement data. So New Jersey chose to implement this Start Strong assessment to meet that requirement. So this test was given to students who were supposed to take it last year. So I said it was students in grades 3 through 8 and 9. So it was basically students in grades 4 through 10 in English and mathematics, and students in grades 6, 9, and 12 in science. These assessments were measuring student understanding of skills that the students were supposed to learn last year for math and English, for science for a 3-year period. So the students in the middle school in 6th grade who took this assessment back in October were basically being assessed on all the science they learned at Rush School. Students in 9th grade, everything in middle school. So that's why there's that little asterisk there next to the previous school year. And this was supposed to be a test that could be done rather rapidly. The NJSLA, as I'm sure folks recall, takes multiple days to administer. This was a test per subject that could be completed in a single sitting of about 45 minutes. On average, was about how long students took to take it. Just like NJSLA, just like PARC that preceded it, this was a computer-based assessment the students took on their Chromebooks, and it was made up of approximately 20 questions per subject. The ELA portion of the test, whether you were a 4th grader or a sophomore in high school, required the children to read a piece of literature and then answer 5 2-part questions. And then they read a selection of nonfiction text and then answered 5 2-part questions. The mathematics assessment was, as you can see there, anywhere from 20 to 25 questions. It did vary a bit. There were some grades where it was only 22 questions. And the science test was around 24 or 25 questions, depending on the grade. The number one caveat with this assessment, and with any state assessment, we should always be of the mindset that this is one piece of evidence. This is one of multiple measures that our teachers and administrators and counselors and families are looking at when we look at students' achievement. These tests were scorable the second the student hit submit. So all the work that has been done since kindergarten on getting children to be good writers, there was no writing in this assessment. These were in English. They took 20 multiple choice questions. In mathematics, it was multiple choice questions, or questions in which the children would type in a digit, a number, that was instantly machine scorable. So much of what we've done in mathematics over the years is encouraging children to explain their thinking, explain their work, to help them better understand. That was not present in this particular assessment. So there is, some caveats to this. Data is better than no data, but let's be mindful that this was machine scorable instantaneously. So if we go school by school, this is Eleanor Rush Intermediate School. The children in grades 4 and 5 took this assessment, and our families received the score reports for how their children did the first week of January. And on the score reports, it would give a score, and each score correlated to a level of, quote, support that may be needed. The highest level was, quote, less support may be needed. The mid-range was some support may be needed, and the lowest scoring level was strong support may be needed. So at the Eleanor Rush School, combining 4th and 5th grade, we had students take the assessment in English and mathematics. You can see there on the left-hand side, 53% of the Rush students scored at the highest level, 24% in the middle, 23% with strong support may be needed. Over at the mathematics column, the numbers are a little bit lower, and this follows the trend across the state of New Jersey. 36% with less support may be needed, 32, and 32. If we break out by grade, we can see there in fourth grade, in English language arts, 45% of the children scored at the highest level. In fifth grade, 60% of the children scored at the highest level. 26 in the middle, 22 in the middle. We want to focus on that level 2 and 3 range. That's where, we want our students to be. Again, being mindful that this is just one of multiple measures that we're going to use. If we look at mathematics down the bottom, grade 4 and grade 5. Again, statewide, the children did the best in English, then math, and then science. So these numbers do kind of follow a statewide trend, and I would probably imagine a national trend. And we can see the passing rates there in mathematics. If we switch over to the middle school, now we have the science column because the children in sixth grade took the science test as well. 50% in English language arts scored at the highest level, 25% and 24%. Obviously those don't add up, but there's, something in the 10th spot there. Mathematics, 32, 40, and 28. Science, 23, 45, and 32. As I said earlier, the numbers in science across the state out of the 3 subjects were the ones that overall had the lowest passing rates. We go down grade by grade. We can see the data there. Large number, decent sized number here for less support needed in all 3 grades in English language arts. In mathematics, we take a look in grade 6, 40% with strong support may be needed, 37% in the mid-range, 24% at the highest level. We have a number of students at the middle school, some in 7th grade, some in 8th grade, who break off onto an honors track, if you will. We can see the data there in 7th grade and 8th grade. In 8th grade, things truly split because about 25% of our 8th graders take Algebra 1, and they receive credit, and it appears on their high school transcript. So 75% of our 8th graders took the grade 8 assessment. About 25% of them took Algebra 1, and about 10 students took the geometry test. They took Algebra 1 as a 7th grader. 100% of those geometry students scored at the highest level. You can see 44 and 48% there in Algebra 1. And here we can see the science data. 32% at the lowest level, 45% in the mid-range, 23% less support needed. Again, I can't say it enough. For that assessment, the children are asked to recall 3 years worth of scientific material. So of all the assessments, that was the one that had the biggest look back time for this particular test. Jumping ahead to the high school, so we had our 9th and 10th graders took ELA, 9th and 10th graders took mathematics, 9th graders and the seniors took the science assessment. So for ELA, again, you see the trend. This, whether it was the rush school, the middle school, or the high school, we have this same trend with the dark purple color. 54% at the highest level, followed by 19% and 28, 39, 28, and 33, 20, 38, 42%, combining the entire high school population that took the assessment. We look at ELA here, broken out by the grade. More than 50% of the students scored at that highest level, 14 and 24 in the middle, 32 and 22 at strong support may be needed. In mathematics, Algebra 1, about 75% of the 9th grade class took Algebra 1. About 25% took geometry. That's on the next slide. So we see the numbers there, 44, 35, and 21% at less support needed. Algebra 2, these are all sophomores, and these are pretty much all students who are taking honors Algebra 2. Small percentage of them might be in the ACC Algebra 2. But 83% of them scoring at the highest level, 8% and 8% at level 2 and level 3. And if we look at geometry, which I mentioned a moment ago, this is about 25% of the ninth grade class and about 75% of the sophomore class, 40% at the highest level, 27 and 26%. And we see the science data, 35% with strong support may be needed, 52% in the middle, 13% at less support, 51, 21, and 28. And those numbers for science, again, mirror the data that is available statewide. The Every Student Succeeds Act, which was preceded by the No Child Left Behind Act, requires that schools, when they report their data to the public, not just report how the total population did, but break it out into different subgroups and to look at the data there. So here on this chart, we have the data broken down. This is for English Language Arts by male and female. We have break it down by ethnicity: Asian, African American, Hispanic, Latino, white, 2 or more races. We break it down by enrollment in certain programs that we have in the district: our English Language Learner Program, students with disabilities, children with an IEP, children who have a 504, and children from economically disadvantaged households. And we have the numbers broken out there for English Language Arts. I know this is a whole lot of data all at once, by the way, and this presentation will go on the district website for people to take a look at as well. But we look at this data for trends, things that pop out, and try to pay particular attention to them, and continued outreach with families, because as I get on to the next couple of slides, what are we doing with the data is the next question. Here we have mathematics, again, broken down by all of those same subgroups: male and female, ethnicity, certain programs, economically disadvantaged, non-economically disadvantaged, to see the differences there. And lastly, for science, the numbers here as well. So if we look at this data closely, obviously there is work to do. And that's where the next slide, where I'm going. One of the good things about this assessment was that normally with the NJSLA or the PARC or the NJ Ask from way back in the days, you never saw the test questions. You never found out, question by question how the children did. That information was actually available to us. So this is just one snippet. I think this was from Rush School. Excuse me, this was from 6th grade math. It basically tells you every single one of the questions, tells you what standard it aligned to, and it tells you flat out how many of your students got it right, how many of them got it completely wrong, and how many of them got partial credit. So that's very, very helpful information for our teachers to be able to look at, questions in this realm of mathematics our kids did really well on. Perhaps they struggled a bit over here, and that gives our supervisors, our teachers, added information for them so that they can add additional attention to these particular skills as they go throughout the course of the year. So this was given to us for every single grade level, every single subject, with a breakdown like that. So with that data in hand, we have been able to offer added remediation for students. And again, this is one of multiple measures. I've said that about 3 times now. This is one of multiple measures that we use to provide extra support for students who may need it. So we do have after-school enrichment sessions in all 4 schools, and students have been invited to be part of those programs to help support them as needed. We have BSIP support during the school day, also in all 4 of our schools, and have used this data to enhance some invitations if we feel that this wasn't just a blip on the radar, but perhaps there's other data that supports the fact that some children may need more support. Our supervisors have worked extremely diligently along with their teachers to look at what areas did the kids do well on and what areas of math, English, science, perhaps do we need to continue to infuse in this year's lessons as well. This was based on previous year's material. And with that has come more professional development that we will be offering for our staff at future in-service days, PLC groups, summer work that we'll be doing to be able to use this data to help our students, our staff, and keep our families informed. With that, I'd ask if any board members have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dr. Goldborn, I know you said this in the beginning, but it escaped me. When were these tests given?
They were given in the month of October.
Last year? Or this
They were given
in 2021?
These were given in the beginning, middle of October 2021, and we received the official results in the middle of December.
Okay, thank you. And is this replacing Park or whatever the latest tests were?
No, it is our understanding that this is a one-year exercise, and the NJSLA will be administered this coming April and May to those students in grades 3 through 9 in English and mathematics, and grades 5, 8, and 11 in science.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Goldberg. Excellent
All right.
presentation, very informative.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to section 8, correspondence to the board. Anyone have anything that they need to share? Okay, we're going to section 9, committee reports. We had none this month, so we will move on to section 10, which is public comments on agenda items. So at this time, we would like to invite the public that you may have comments that are limited to items appearing on this evening's agenda at this time. There'll be another opportunity during the meeting to comment on non-agenda items. Also, all members of the public who wish to speak on agenda items only should raise their hand to indicate that you do wish to speak. And then when called upon, participants should state their first and last name and their address clearly for the record. And in accordance with Cinnaminson Board of Education Bylaw 0164.6, comments will be limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person. And the comment period will be limited to 30 minutes tops. So with that, is there anyone who would like to comment on items appearing on tonight's agenda?
To comment, you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom. If you're connected by telephone, you do that by pressing *9.
Mr. Creel, I am not seeing any members of the public with a hand raised. If you could confirm that, Mrs. Fitzwater, you can move on.
Okay, thank you very much. We're moving on to section 11, personnel certificated. Mr. Capello.
All right, thank you once again, Mrs. Fitzwater. I am under section 11A, seeking the board to approve the resignation for purposes of retirement of Mary Cook, Eleanor Rush School, after 24 years of service to the students of Cinnaminson. And that is effective June 30th, 2022. There letter B appointments, seeking the board to approve the appointment of Colleen Feiner to the New Albany School as an MDK teacher effective on or about March 8th, 2022, through the rest of the school year. Under number 2, seeking the board to approve the appointment of Lisa Conway, middle school special education teacher on or about March 21st, 2022, through the end of the school year. Under teaching overload, seeking the board to approve the overage listed below in the agenda. That's Anne Marie Barrett, effective 2/1/22 through 4/15/22, and Charles Kind, 1/15/22 through 4/15/22. We have no advances on the salary guide. Under extra duty appointments, seeking the board to approve Matthew Digney and Shannon Morris, high school as play unified basketball coaches. Under number 2, seeking the board to approve extra duty curriculum writing for health and physical education course as attached. And under number 3, seeking the board to approve Krista Batesel as a counselor for 2 days per diem coverage of another counselor at the Rush School. Under letter F, leave of absences, seeking the board to approve the leaves of absences that are listed in the agenda under F, items 1 through 4, listed by employee number. Under letter G, substitute teachers and nurses, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the resignation for personal reasons of Stephen Cardis, permanent substitute teacher at the middle school. Number 2, seeking the board to ratify and affirm following appointments of permanent substitute teachers to work a maximum of 28 hours weekly, and that is Amanda Adams at the middle school and Rachel Martinez also at the middle school. Number 3, seeking the board to approve the appointment of the following substitute teachers to be called on an as-needed basis for the remainder of the 21-22 school year, and those names are listed in the agenda under number 3. Number 4, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the increases of substitute school nurses' rate of pay to $35 an hour. We're asking the board to make that effective retroactively January 19th, 2022. Number 5, seeking the board to ratify and affirm an increase for the daily rate for Emily Fontaine, permanent substitute teacher at the Rush School, for conducting duties related to her teaching assignment. Number 6, seeking the board to accept the resignation for personal reasons of Cynthia Calabrese, permanent substitute teacher number 3 at the New Albany School, effective February 2nd, 2022. And then for her to remain on as a daily substitute teacher effective February 3rd, 2022. Under letter H, tutors, seeking the board to approve the following staff as tutors to be called on an as-needed basis, and they are listed in the agenda under number 1. And number 2, seeking the board to approve Daniel Sereno Middle School as a 1-to-1 quarantine tutor. Under letter I, student teacher, seeking the board to approve Juliet Wilson from Rowan University as a student teacher with Mary Cook at the Rush School from January 18th to March 14th, 2022. And number 2, seeking the board to approve Angela Schock, LaSalle University as a student teacher with Brooke Kaffenberg speech at the Rush School from January 18th through May 6th, 2022. And number 3, seeking the board to approve Victoria Wadja from TCNJ as a student teacher with Christine Brightbow from the New Albany School, January 24th to May 6th, 2022. And under number 4, seeking the board to approve Gabriella Massantelio from LaSalle University as student teacher with Catherine Jenkins at New Albany School from January 18th to May 6th, 2022. We have no mentor teachers, and that is certificated staff, Mrs. Fitzwater.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mrs. Trempe, may I have a motion to approve Section 11, personnel certificated, items A through J?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McGuckin. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And motion passed. Moving on to, I have to get back to my screen here. Section 12, personnel non-certificated. Mr. Capello.
Thank you once again, Mrs. Fitzwater. Under personnel non-certificated, letter A, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the resignation for personal reasons of Karen Boyer, special education ABA tech at the New Albany School. And under number 2, seeking the board to accept the resignation for personal reasons of Alexandra Pritchard, special education ABA tech at the high school. We have no leave of absences. Under letter C, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the appointment of Louis Key Bettner, special education ABA tech at the Memorial School in the annex 6.75 hours daily, and that's retroactive to January 10th, 2022. Number 2, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the appointment of Connor Booth, flex-time utility mechanic and operations, 7.5 hours daily, retroactive to January 3rd, 2022. Number 3, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the appointment of Gianna Castle, special education ABA tech at the New Albany School, 6.75 hours daily, retroactive to January 10th, 2022. Number 4, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the appointment of Suzette Johnson, school bus driver and transportation, 4 hours daily, retroactive to January 3rd, 2022. Under number 5, seeking the board to ratify and affirm Catherine Azea, data systems coordinator, to work 10 days, retroactive to January 14th, 2022. Number 6, seeking the board to approve the appointment of Julia Carlin, flex-time IT technician at the Memorial School, 28 hours weekly, effective January 19th, 2022. Under letter D, extra duty, seeking the board to approve the request for Rose Adams and Katie Bove in Rose's absence to share supervision responsibility for students traveling to and from all South Jersey course rehearsals. And number 2, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the following special education aides at the high school to work extra duty attending Play Unified practices, retroactive January 3rd through February 24th. Those names are listed in the agenda under number 2. Number 3, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the request for Thomas Gallo, special education aide at the Rush School, to work 8 hours extra duty attending the floor hockey after-school program, retroactive to January 13th through March 3rd. Under number 4, seeking the board to ratify and affirm the request for Marley Gonzalez-Champaigna, special education aide at the high school, to work a total of 2 hours as a translator for CST parent meetings, and that's retroactive to January 6th through January 12th. Under letter E, transfers, there is one. Seeking the board to ratify and affirm the transfer of Kiana Hawkins Deravan, special education ABA tech from the New Albany School to the Memorial School Annex, retroactive to January 18th. Under job description, seeking the board to approve the following job description and that is A-41 Data Systems Coordinator. Under letter G, substitute volunteer, seeking the board to approve Roxanne Wesley as substitute teacher aide. We call it on an as-needed basis for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. And then number 2, seeking the board to approve John Wartenbar as a substitute school bus driver to be called on an as-needed basis for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. And that is Section 12, non-certificated personnel. Mrs. Fitzwater, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. Kenny, can I have a motion to approve the non-certificated personnel in Section 12, items A through G?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to Section 13, curriculum and instruction. Dr. Goldburn.
Thank you very much. Under 13, letter A, requesting board approval of the professional development requests that are attached. Under letter B, number 1, requesting board approval of the class of 2022 senior trip to Disney World from March 29th, 2022 to April 2nd, 2022. Under number 2, the board approves the field trip requests that are attached. Under letter C, requesting board approval of the submission of the district's 3-year program for English language learners as attached. And under letter D, requesting approval of the revision to this year's school calendar as a result of the school closure on Monday, January 3rd. Friday, February 18th would now become a student day, and the in-service day that was scheduled for Friday, February 18th will now be on Wednesday, June 22nd.
Thank you, Dr. Goldburn. Mr. Bromhall, can I have a motion to approve Section 13, curriculum and instruction, letters A through D?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to Section 14, special education. Mr. Capello.
Thank you once again, Mrs. Fitzwater, and Mrs. Llewellyn sends her regrets that the district is hosting a CPAG meeting contemporaneously with this event. Not much under her section this evening, nothing under contracts, nothing under student placements. However, under letter C, consultant agreement, seeking the board to approve the following consultant agreements with Educational Specialized Associates LLC to provide bilingual counseling as requested by the district for the 2021-22 school year at a rate of $125 per hour. And under number 2, Kenyon Learning and Consulting LLC to provide assistive technology services as requested by the district for the 21-22 school year at a rate of $150 per hour. And those are the items under 14, special education. Mrs. Fitzwater.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mrs. Quinn, can I have a motion to approve Section 14, item C?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McGuckin. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Section 15, policy and regulations. Mr. Capello.
Thank you once again. A couple items under policy, seeking that the board approve on second reading and adoption the following policies. 5337 on service animals, that's a revised policy, and also policy 1648.11, the pirate path forward, also revised for this evening. Mrs. Fitzwater?
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mrs. Turner, can I have a motion to approve Section 15, item A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed. Moving on to Section 16, business and finance. Ms. Livingood.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. For business and financial, item A for grants, the board accepts the revised 2021 to 2022 funding statement for services under Chapter 192, 193 as attached. And item number 2 for the IDEA Part B application, that the board approves the amendment of the IDEA Part B application and acceptance of carryover funds for the 2021 to 2022 school year as attached. And that is it for business and finance tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Livingood. Mrs. Iacone, can I have a motion to approve Section 16, Item A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Section 17, other business, Mr. Capello?
Thank you. There is one item under other business, seeking the board to approve the submission of the required 6-month update to the Safe Return Plan as required by the New Jersey Department of Health, and that is attached in the agenda. And we will need a motion for that, Mrs. Fitzwater.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. McGuckin, can I have a motion to approve Section 17, other business A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Trompe. I'm not sure who said that. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to Section 18, public comments on other matters. And again, I'd like to make a statement before we move to public comments. And that is, at this time, the board will seek public comments on any item. Members of the public are reminded that if they wish to speak, they should utilize the technology to raise their hand. When called upon, participants should state their first and last name and address clearly for the record. In accordance with Cinnaminson Board of Education Bylaw 0164.6, comments will be limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person. The comment period will last for 30 minutes. The business administrator will warn you when you have 1 minute remaining. Members of the public should be respectful and avoid back and forth or debate with the administrator, professional, or any board members. We will respond when necessary, but we are here to listen tonight. So with that, Mr. Crew.
Again, use the feature in Zoom to raise your hand. If you're connected by telephone, that would be *9 to raise your hand. Mrs. Fitzwater, Mr. Capello, at this time I don't see any hands raised. And I spoke too soon, I apologize. I have participant named Eileen. Give me 1 second. We'll promote you to a panelist so that you can speak and address the board.
The attendee who is identified as Eileen, if you would, please state your name and address for the record, and we welcome your comments to the board. Eileen, are you able to hear me?
Eileen, I think you're muted right now. You have to unmute
Okay,
yourself.
sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Capella. Okay. My name is Eileen Fleistein. I live at 812 Windsor Drive, Cinnaminson. I'm going to actually read the speech that I gave in the auditorium last week. I know it was not on public record. Unfortunately, our constitutional rights were violated because you told people they couldn't be in there because they were unmasked. So I'm here today. I have 5 children. My youngest is a senior this year. I've lived in Cinnaminson for over 35 years. I'm here today because of the COVID protocols in place in our school. Kids have received frantic, emotional, and fear-inciting emails from coaches regarding mask compliance. They've been threatened with disciplinary action, both from teachers and coaches, and kept in the state of fear. Students have lost points on academic assignments and final grades based on their mask compliance. But if you wear a mask properly, you're actually given a reward. It's called mask appearance. Masks are a medical device. In April of 2020, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration issued an emergency use authorization for non-surgical face masks to be worn by the general public. The law that governs granting of EUAs is the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, 21 U.S. Code, subsection 360 BBB-3, authorization for medical products in use for emergencies. The law specifically states that individuals to whom the product is administered, in this case the non-surgical face mask, are informed of the option to accept or refuse administration of the product. The bottom line is that mandating emergency use authorization products violates both state and federal law. Faculty and staff are harassing our children about their masks. The definition of harassment is to intimidate, coerce with persistent demands or threats, to bother persistently. The definition of intimidation is to make timid, fill with fear, to force into or deter from some action, inducing fear. The definition of bullying is to habitually intimidate people, especially those unlikely to defend themselves, abuse or harass, to coerce. Schools, Cinnaminson School put so much emphasis on the HIB policies. The administration, faculty, and staff must be held to the same standards as our students. This harassment, intimidation, and bullying, medical coercion actually, needs to stop. I ask you board members, what consequences will be imposed on the adults who harass, intimidate, and bully our kids while they're in school? This is an abuse of power by the very people who have authority over our children. We do not want to take away anyone's ability to wear a mask. We are in favor of body autonomy, and we are for choice. Make the mask optional.
You have 1 minute.
To do anything less is unlawful. Please know you have a liability. All of you have insurance, each one of you individually, each one of you. Are you prepared to defend yourself in court for the things that you do on this board? Will it be worth it to you? Do you know the first sentence in the Nuremberg Code, which is adopted internationally in 1947, on permissible medical experiments states, number one, the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. You are doing things that people do not agree with. You are violating our rights. Just please educate yourself. I ask that you look at the CDC website about the emergency authorization of the vaccine, of the mask, of the PCR test. They're all emergency use authorization. And that you making people do this because you're taking your ESSER funds and it's tied to the money that you get from the federal government, that's bribery. And you're accepting a bribe to impose
And that's 4 minutes.
unconstitutionally on our children.
Thank you, Mrs. Blystein. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Creel, I see two other individuals right now who have identified themselves by raising their hands. The first one is listed as Brittany R.
I'm moving Brittany R. over, and you should be able to address the board.
Hi, yes, good evening. My name is Brittany Relvis, and I live at 707 Foxcroft Drive. I am new to Cinnaminson. I have 3 children, one of which I was able to pay for a pod so she can actually get an education, and she's in 1st grade and understand the phonics and things that are being taught to her. I have 2 boys that are at the middle school. Like I said, I'm new to this school. You all know my son because he's your poster boy on the cover of Cinnaminson newspaper with your one-to-one technology. I am not very happy with how I've been treated since I've been here. I called the superintendent to introduce myself and ask him where his stance was on masking the kids. I basically was told that I can come to the meeting unmasked and find out what can happen. And I did come unmasked and I found out exactly what happened. I was intimidated by a man that's way bigger than me as he stood over me. And then you guys shut down the meeting and basically took your ball and went home, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. This is not going to stop. Moms are not going away. I had concerns. I have twins, like I said, at your middle school. My one has been punched, assaulted 2 times, where the other children were suspended that nobody saw, but then you can healthy quarantine my children, for the nurse couldn't pick them out of a hat, but can tell me that they were in contact with somebody that had COVID and they need to healthy quarantine at home. I mean, this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. I'm ashamed on how I've been treated, on how things are going in Cinnaminson. I think you all need to take a long, hard look at yourselves and see what you're doing to these babies. And maybe these funds should start going to mental health of these children, because that's exactly what you're going to need. The fact that these kids have to sit in school all day long with a mask on and then leave and go to their sports and activities with their friends and family and be with these same children that they can't see their faces in class is disgusting. So, I mean, if the healthy quarantine continues, I am asking as a parent that my children eat lunch separately from everyone else, because that's where I'm told where the contract tracing has come from. So if that's the problem, then my kids need to be separated from everyone while they eat lunch. That way I can guarantee that they remain in school and get the education that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rolvis. I see another individual who has raised their hand, Mr. Creel. They're presently identifying as Mary Beth Hankins with their hand up.
I've promoted Mary Beth Hankins, and she's reconnecting here as a panelist. You should now be able to address the board.
All right, you are still muted. There you go. Ms. Hankins, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mary Beth Hankins. I live at 705 Windsor Drive. I currently have 2 children enrolled in Cinnaminson. I just wanted to touch base again tonight. I've been to several meetings before. I wanted to see what the resolution was upon the expiration of the executive order that's currently in place right now. As parents who are, sick of the mask mandates, we are asking if the board is prepared to go mask optional come February 10th. We need the policy written in advance. We want to hear that there needs to be another meeting held and then it will be passed. We're asking that the board be proactive and not reactive. That's all based on the hopes that Murphy does not reinstate a new executive order for a mask mandate when it's not needed. If there is no new mask mandate put in place and the board does not choose to make masking optional, then I think we all know the real reasoning behind the masking. It's the funding. I've spoken to several people. I've looked into the ESSCR funding. I'm aware that there were Chromebooks purchased and, the pricing was listed, and it's just not adding up to everything that was allocated by the state. So I'm just asking that the board be proactive and come up with a resolution to make mask optional. If you want to send your kid to school with a mask on, that's perfectly fine. But those of us who choose not to do so should not be forced to do so. And that's basically what I just want to touch base with, because it's just outrageous that this is still going on. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hankins. I appreciate your comments. Any other members of the public who would like to speak before the board? If you could just use the technology to raise your hand. Mr. Creel, at this time, I do not see any other attendees who have identified themselves as wishing to offer comment before the board. I'll give it one last second, and then I will see if Ms. Fitzwater is ready to move on. And again, at this time, I do not see any individuals wishing to speak before the board. Mrs. Fitzwater?
Thank you, Mr. Capello. We're moving on to section 19, comments from the board. Mrs. Turner?
Good evening. Congratulations to Melissa DiClemente and the entire CMS staff that helped our school to be named the 2022 State School of Character for the second time. This is based on the last 5 years. Great job. Congratulations to the DECA department on the recent successes. Congratulations to all the Cinnaminson High School and the middle school students of the month. Thank you to Mr. Goulburn for the detailed Start Strong testing presentation. Excellent job and very informative. Congratulations to Mrs. Cook on her many years of service. Good luck on your retirement. Welcome to our new employees. We wish you the best in the future in our schools and community. And I'd like to personally thank the numerous students from Cinnaminson High School that helped out with the Township Holiday Tree Lighting. You were a huge help. And thank you for everyone for attending the meeting. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Turner. With that, I will just say that the next regular Board of Education meeting is Tuesday, February 15th at 7 p.m. In the middle school cafeteria. At this point, we expect to be all live and in person. Can I, Mrs. Trompe, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McGuckin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.